Again, Bill Sheridan with the Maryland Association of CPAs and the Business Learning Institute. Today, we're going to gaze into our crystal balls with Jennifer Warawa. She is the Global Vice President of Product Marketing for Sage, and she's released her top 5 predictions for the accounting profession for 2016. Here they are in a nutshell. Number 5, accountants will find themselves under increasing pressure to grow their practices. Number 4, accountants will begin to realize a need for integrated technology to manage all aspects of their businesses. Number 3, accountants will continue to adopt mobile technology in an effort to find more work-life balance. Number 2, the role of the accountant will continue to evolve throughout tax season, with accountants broadening their practices' portfolios and adding new services. And her number 1 prediction for 2016, new government bureaucracy and tax rates will challenge growing businesses, and that's going to make accountants even more necessary, even more important to the success of those businesses. Now, a lot of big themes there, regulation, technology, practice management. So I sat down with Jennifer at the recent SleaderCon event in Las Vegas and asked her what it all means. Here's what she had to say.
Yeah, I think I go back to the old saying, the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. And I think for a lot of CPA firms, they see this as such a monumental shift, such a big undertaking to transform and to change, that instead they do nothing, like nothing at all. It's exactly the same as it was a year ago. And I look at the studies that we do from year to year, and you can go back to respondents and say, last year at this time you said this is where you were going to focus your business. Tell us about the progress you've made. And they're like, I haven't made any. A year just went by again. Not different than other New Year's resolutions. So I think for firms, just saying, how am I going to get started on this journey of change and transformation and getting myself ready for the future? And then one bite at a time, saying, what am I going to do this month, this week, today, to start moving towards the future? And if they can take that one bite at a time, I think they'll be able to be successful and set themselves up for a successful future. I think the CPA of 2020, and certainly not different than we've talked about in the past, is in a much more, they're much more of an advisor than they are today. And I think that businesses are looking at this. We just had a focus group 2 weeks ago with small businesses and talked to them about what do they want to see from their CPA. We had a focus group with CPAs, and it's very interesting because they want the same things. It's just how do we get them to shift to get there. The firms see themselves as becoming more advisory, being able to partner more closely with their clients, and actually become part of the workflow of a small or medium-sized business. So how do they actually give the advisory, how do they give those advisory services at the point of need, not at the end of the year? So being able to figure out how do they get into the workflow, I think is a huge opportunity. To be really honest, when we look at the technology that we have to enable firms to become more successful and working more collaboratively with their clients, such as Sage View or Sage Live, when we talk to CPA firms, the part where they get stuck is around the conversation they now need to have with the business. So they have the technology, they have the insights, they have the information, and now they need to have the conversation. And that's where they're getting stuck right now. So if I'm a firm getting ready for the future, I'm thinking about how do I have a more meaningful conversation and dialogue with my clients and with businesses so they can be more successful in the future, because that's where they're getting stuck. They will literally call into our sales organization and say, what should I say when I know this is going to when the cash flow is running short? Like, do I just call and just say that, or do I build up to it? Or it's about effective communication. A lot of times the CPA has been communicating maybe in writing or just reading documents, going through tax papers and helping people understand their taxes. And now this is a very different conversation. So it's about really becoming an effective communicator to have those more meaningful conversations with their clients. I think it's twofold. I think it's about communication and collaboration. And so I think we look for leaders at Sage, for example, who know what to do when they don't know what to do. And so I think for firms, they're going to get people coming to them, clients that are asking about, we just expanded into Europe. What's that going to do to my taxes? And if a firm doesn't know, they need to be able to figure out, where do I get that answer from? So how do I collaborate with another firm in Europe who's going to help me with these tax regulations? And so I think it's going to be about that really fluid communication between them and their clients, but also the collaboration to help them find the answers they're looking for. Because even a small firm, a sole practitioner, is going to get questions about international business, and that didn't used to be the case. They'd serve smaller businesses, the florist down the street, the hairdresser down the street. Now all of a sudden it's a 20-something-year-old that's making t-shirts in their garage, and they're shipping all over the world. And so the conversation is very different than it was even 5 years ago. So I think it's going to be about collaboration and figuring out the answers when they're not front and center and just easy to identify. Yeah, I think continuing to offer education to firms where they can learn better skills to equip them for the future, I think, is one piece of it. The other piece is a lot around networking. And what we find is when we have a focus group, it's amazing that we have a focus group so we can learn. And so we're behind the glass, and we've got a professional moderator, and we're not having that direct interaction. And it's amazing when the CPAs leave the room, they say, that was just an amazing evening. And it's like, well, they were there so we could learn from them, but the networking with each other is where they picked up the best ideas. So it's like, how do you find other firms or mentors or CPAs who fill a gap or do something really well that you don't do well, and then learn from it? So I think facilitating those networking opportunities, those places where CPAs can come together and learn from each other, because it's amazing. Like they're like, oh, I'd love to do this again. It's like a focus group, but they didn't even look at it like that. They looked at it as sharing and learning from their peers, which is a lot of what we're doing at Sleater Conference this week. So more of that as well, so they can learn from each other.